Hello and welcome to this tutorial on chords, and I would urge you to watch the first one I did in which I dealt with all the sort of very obvious first few chords, the major, the minor, dominant seventh, minor seventh, major seventh, before you move into this tutorial, because I'm going to assume you've understood everything I showed you in that lesson. So in today's lesson I'm going to be showing you the suspended second, the suspended fourth, the sixth, the minor sixth and the augmented chords. So that's starting to sound a bit more complicated, but don't worry, I'm going to make it nice and straightforward for you. Right, let's do the suspended chords. You've probably heard this, especially if you're a guitarist, things like D Sus4, A Sus4, C Sus2, D Sus2. What does it all mean? Well, if we say something like C Sus2, that is C suspended second, and you don't have to worry about the suspended bit. That's kind of a leftover from old sort of contrapuntal music where a note is held over from a previous chord, kind of suspended, if you like, between the two chords. Don't worry too much about that. I'll show you how these chords work. So in these chords, the minor or major third note is left out and it's replaced by either the perfect fourth or the major second note. So here's a C major chord. We know this one, don't we? C, E and G. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take out the E, I'm going to put the D in instead. So I'm going to have C, D and G. Right, C and G, first and perfect fifth, and the D instead of the E, so the second instead of the major third. So what that sets up is a kind of a tension. It kind of sounds a bit wrong, and you make it sound right by resolving it, we say, by taking out that second and putting the good old third in instead. So turning our C Sus2 into a C major. So that is C with an added second, C Sus2. If I do the same thing but put the fourth in instead of the second, so if I play the first and the fifth, just the same. This time I'm going to play the F as well. So I've got C, F and G. Now have a listen to that. And that wants to be resolved again down to that E. So C Sus4, the first, the perfect fourth and the perfect fifth play together. And then you can resolve that to C major by taking out the fourth and putting the third in instead. So there is C Sus2. There's C Sus4, and both of them need resolving, don't they? So you could resolve to the major chord after both those chords, or you could resolve to the minor chord. So sus chords, suspended chords, are not major or minor. We only get that when we resolve them. Do you see? Here they are on the software. So you'll notice how the C and the D are, and these are an octave higher than I've been playing. So they're up here and here, just an octave higher. Notice how the first and the second note are kind of really close together. You can see that, can't you? And there's that G up there. So this is C Sus2, and there's C major. You can see how it resolves. And there's C Sus4, which is the fourth and the fifth, close together, and then again resolving. So just to be clear, suspended second, first, major second and perfect fifth, suspended fourth, first, perfect fourth and perfect fifth. And here's an interesting byproduct of this. If I play C Sus2, I'll do it down here, this chord here. Okay, now if I take the G off the top and put it on the bottom, that actually is a G Sus4. That's really weird, isn't it? So C Sus2 has got the same notes in it as G Sus4 if you kind of invert it. That's quite an interesting byproduct, isn't it? So C Sus2 and G Sus4, so the first and the fifth of C, if you like, got the same notes, just in a different order. And suspended chords, are fairly corny, but they're very, very useful. If you're as old as me, you might remember which is a song called Needles and Pins, which used all added seconds, Sus2s and Sus4s like that. That was fairly complicated, but sus chords are really good, aren't they? They sound great. Here's a very straightforward chord, the 6th chord. So if you see C6, C and a number 6, this is what we're talking about. And it is quite simply the major chord, C, E and G, with the added major 6th note of the scale, which is A. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So C major with an A added to it, and that is C6th. Famous ending of a lot of Beatles songs where they ended with the ooh at the end of the song and played or sang a C6th chord instead of a C major chord. So C6th, C6 or C6th you could say, is the major chord, first major third, perfect fifth with the major 6th note. So it's a very straightforward chord. Here it is on the software. So C, E, G and A. Now we can have a major 6th, we can also have a minor 6th, which is what you would imagine. It's a C minor chord with an added A. Now that's quite discordant, isn't it? C, E flat, G is your C minor chords. This one and this one, okay? And add that A on the top. Okay, so the 6th still stays the same note, it's still A. It's the minor bit that comes into play. So you turn your major chord into a minor chord and add that 6th on top. So C minor 6th. And here it is in the software. C, E flat, G and A. So C6 is quite a pretty sound. C minor 6th is a little bit, well, I wouldn't call it ugly, but it's not as accessible as C6. If you see a minor 6th chord written down on the page, it will be something like C small m 6, C minor 6, or C min 6, C minor 6th. Here's the last chord that we're going to do in this lesson, and it is the augmented chord. And it sounds pretty scary, doesn't it? But actually, it's very, very straightforward. Now, if you see C, A, U, G, or C and a plus sign to the right of it, this is an augmented chord. Now, this chord, C augmented, has got 2 major third intervals. Do you remember we said way back in the previous lesson, C major has got a major interval there and a minor interval there. If I turn this top interval into a major interval, so a major third, so it's 2 major thirds, C to E and E to G sharp, that is a C augmented chord. Okay, now if you raise a perfect interval by 1 semitone, we say that it's augmented. So if I raise G to G sharp, C to G sharp is an augmented 5th interval. So C, E and G sharp is a C augmented chord. I mean, some people are a bit pedantic and they'll say this is a C augmented 5th chord, which is fine. But if you want to know what an augmented chord is, it's your standard major chord and take the perfect 5th up 1 semitone. Like that. Buddy Holly song. Oh, there you've got C major chord, C augmented chord, C 6th chord, C dominant 7th chord. Raining in my heart, in case you didn't recognise it. So C augmented, and it's an AUG or a plus sign. Here it is on the software. C, E, so standard fare for a C major chord, but the weird note here, G sharp, and first, major third and sharpened 5th. That's what you need for your augmented chord. So that's my second lesson complete, dealing with the structure of chords. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a like and consider subscribing to my channel. If you've got any problems, you can always contact me. I'll always be happy to answer your questions. And look forward to the next lesson where we go into the murky world of diminished chords. Thanks for watching.